So Bellular just released a new video about something about a WOWHead investigation. I actually can't find anything about it, but let's go ahead and watch it anyway and see what they say.
Do silly things, and I get to tell you all about it. This week, it's kind of fun and spicy. We've got a promise that Blizzard might be going back on, an exciting part of the next patch being, well, a bit of a disappointment, and a hard pill to swallow that you guys actually like buggy dungeons. But for Classic Plus, some stuff cooking up that is fairly exciting and a big tease for the future. And if you find yourself struggling to keep up with the game these days, good news. I've got a whole new segment of the show to help you out. But first, the broken promise. Now, there's a thing I've been doing in my personal free time that you don't know. I've actually been building like little apps and tools, and that's why today's sponsor is really relevant. They're Boot Dev. And with Boot, you'll learn back-end web development using Python and Go, which are two awesome languages that will set you up well as a programmer. And why I love Boot is I can do their demos and so much more for free. And when you do buy, it's with a 30-day money-back guarantee. It's time to talk about dinars. So we were told we'd be getting them as a part of the raid renown in this patch, but then there was lots of complaints.
Receiving a puzzling cartel chip, which can be traded for a weapon, trinket, or otherwise special item from the Liberation of Undermine. Similar again to Dragonflight Season 4 Bullions and Shadowlands Season 4's Dinar, these are intended to have their own upgrade track, which will mean they'll scale to the maximum rank of 14 given enough crests and valor stones. This could change before launch, but the intent is for these to be fully upgradable and usable by anyone that reaches this point and not locked or conditioned to certain difficulties.
Including from yours truly, that they were so late in the renown track that it didn't make sense. So Blizzard decided to pull them. But at the same time, Blizzard suggested that we would get them in patch 11.15 instead. And the proof's rather explicit. In an interview with Nagura, well, Ian said this quote, "It's going to be in the 11.15 update." So specifically, right, he was talking about them having a more kind of universal system for dinars so that they can
handing the microphone off. Oh, that's like so annoying, anywhere. Bro.
So the question then is, well, where are
they? And then on top of it,
confused about what a dinar is. Basically, the idea was you'd kill a whole bunch of bosses, you'd get a token, and that token could be used to purchase something of your choice from the raid. This time around, it was going to be called the Puzzling Cartel Chip, and it's actually in the game files. It's just not tied to any items or vendors. There's no way to get one. There are no new vendors in the patch that might sell them, and existing raid vendors are not updated on the PTR. There's also zero mention of them in the patch update. None at all, which is odd. So it looks like Blizzard has perhaps altered the terms of the deal, which has led to players calling it a little bit of a rug pull. Now, I get how in a sense, this is massively frustrating because this season has got serious trinket imbalances. And for many players, the utility of a system like this that just lets you, after a certain amount of time, just get a bit of gear is it would guarantee you could get that trinket that you want, or in some cases perhaps would feel that you need, instead of, say, getting frustrated just farming Priory again and again and again for the signet and never having the damn thing drop, leaving you, of course, to just rage at your weekly vault. Well, you could at least know that with something like the dinar, well, there would be a backup, and you'd be okay. And what's been surprising is Blizzard's reluctance to either just give us these or to communicate where their thinking is. It really is quite bizarre. They've made basically everything in WoW more generous, but they can't seem to get a simple, here's a token, have fun, system made, which is a little odd. I don't really know what's going on.
I guess so, yeah.
Fingers crossed they're maybe trying to surprise us with something cool, new, and designed actually for the future, but don't get your hopes up. Maybe this will be a thing for the next.
There is just always way too much stock put into trinkets, like the idea that, like, because it's almost never, I mean, there are, like, best in slot trinkets that drop out of raids, but, like, almost, like he mentioned, grinding Priory for the signet over and over again, which is what I've been doing, and not being very low.
Options in BFA were an absolute riot. You had the likes of, say, Twilight Devastation that was letting tanks almost one-shot raid trash. It's pretty wild. Infinite Stars turned trying to parse into something that was, I guess, just like Mario Party. It was complete randomness. And it was not a clean situation. But what it was to many was a lot of fun. It was ridiculous. It was OP. And where there's fun, there's the fun police. And this sparked off quite the news story, right? It had very much seemed that the...
Well, I think anytime you get something that's like way too OP, like I guess you could consider it fun, but I don't know, man. It then like trickles into like, oh hey, if you don't have this, it'd be different if it was like, oh yeah, it's just fun. But then like it eventually turns into being a requirement, and that's when it's not fun.
The enchants we're getting in 11.1.5, the return of these corruptions were nothing but a pale shadow of what they used to be. That at least was the news. That was what was happening. But now it's a little more complicated. After a fairly scathing investigation from WOWHead found almost all of them to be completely useless, it was ridiculous, Blizzard then quickly added huge buffs onto the PTR.
That's what the investigation was, that they're useless? That's all it was? Okay. I mean, I guess, but I don't know that I consider that a brutal investigation.
And when I say huge, I mean 186% buffs to the greater.
Wow, 100, man.
Of them, which almost tripled.
That's almost like you might as well just completely rework stuff at that point, eh? Like
their damage. So this did fix one major problem, but Blizzard are still leaving a fair amount of fun on the table. You see, the original corruptions were outright broken. Twilight Devastation scaled with max HP. And that meant that, of course, tanks with a lot of HP could absolutely obliterate mob pack. That's no longer the case. Now it does flat damage with reduced AoE scaling. To take another example, Infinite Stars. That used to stack, well,
Infinite Stars was that one that, like, people, like, literally got to rank 1 in PvP with.
It was really ridiculous. It would stack infinitely on boss fights. It would ramp up to just crazy single target damage, but now it resets at 6 stacks. And that does kill a part of the fun, right, of the original. Like, what made 8.3 memorable in the end was how much fun people had fooling around with corruptions once they were put on a vendor so that people could just craft their character to be ridiculously broken and powerful, which of course, as games like Diablo show us, is actually really fun. Now, these versions coming in this next patch, before the buffs, were adding less than 1% damage to your character. Now they're closer to 3%. 3%, that's not a lot. It is a hell of a lot more than 1%. It will be a good buff. It will feel pretty good. They do actually look great. They're fun, they're flavorful, but it's not a, you know, you're going full send meme territory thing like what we used to have. So to some people, this is then a disappointing way, right? It's taking a bit of a hilarious mistake from BFA that ended up being really fun and kind of not repeating the part that actually made it feel special back then. But really, if you ask me, this is a question of identity. What is World of Warcraft supposed to be like, right? Is it supposed to be extremely well balanced? Maybe to the point where some of that design space that the likes of Diablo or other games can explore by having broken builds, where that is not really a thing. That's just not in the cards for World of Warcraft. That, of course, is going to lead to a more stable meta, right? In many ways, you could say a more competitive game. Other people would say that is less fun. Overall, with this situation, it is developing. We'll have to see what they're actually like on live, but we can at least give Blizzard some credit here. Before these hot fixes, there was only one choice for every spec, Void Ritual, and that's because it just gave stats instead of doing damage, and that just meant that it scaled better. Now, it is strong, but it's no longer 3 times as strong. And that means the DPS player should be able to pick the one that they think is coolest, or at least matches the damage profile that they want.
Yeah, it's not gonna matter. That's never gonna matter. It's always gonna end up just being whatever the highest DPS is, and then we're gonna get the cookie cutter builds, and everybody's gonna follow that.
It's a little bit of a sad situation because
I mean,
Ritual is still the only viable option for you, and that is because of role modifier nerfs. While we're on the topic of hot fixes and buffs, this coming reset is going to be huge for some of you. Basically, it's class tuning time. So, Deathbringer DKs, both Blood and Frost.
Nothing for Fury Warriors. Never is, never will be.
Solid damage buffs.
Nope.
Overperforming Vengeance Demon Hunters will have their Silent Sigil cut in half, which stings, but honestly, that is really fair enough. And there's a very slight hit to their self-sustain. Boomkins then get an overall buff and some AoE nerfs to bring it back down. Ogvoker, the kind of well and truly dead spec that doesn't really fit in World of Warcraft amazingly, it's at least getting some more personal damage buffs.
I still have yet to play Invoker, man. I need to get on that.
Not going to have its stonks going up anytime soon. Arcane Mages, Ellie Shamans, and Warlocks are getting some fairly decent damage buffs to their base spells and then some underperforming
Demonology increased by 20%.
Well, finally, you are getting some very hefty buffs. Certainly nice to see. And, well, you really did need them. I mean, just take a look at these awful pick rates.
I always thought monks were, like, just generally speaking, super duper powerful, you know?
Overall, it's basically neutral or good news, but that's with one exception, and that is the Discipline Priests. You guys are getting nerf batted, so Shield, Penance, and Atonement are seeing some pretty major nerfs, and then Holy is actually getting some fairly chunky buffs. Finally, Paladin Healers are getting a tiny bit of love on their passive healing, and Mistweaver is losing a chunk of their absurd lightning single target damage, which is basically fair enough. Not massive changes, essentially it's just Blizzard trying to fix up some outliers. And speaking of busted, I think one half of the player base probably thinks the other half have got busted brains. Blizzard, well, they gave us a...
So we prepare for Season 3 of Mythic Plus dungeons. We'd like to know which of the 9 War Within dungeons. Not Dawnbreaker, please. Dawnbreaker has 18%? Holy smokes, dude. Cedar Brew is only at 10? Dark Flame is at 7? I like Dark Flame way better than Dawnbreaker for sure.
Wanting strong trinkets. So Blizzard threw up a forum poll to decide what the next War Within half of the next dungeon season pool is, and here are the results.
Wow.
We have collectively vetoed Arakara, Floodgate, Priory, and Dawnbreaker. Maybe we all just love the Arathian spiders that much, but realistically, I think we all just like good trinkets. So get ready for Season 3 to be Sackbrood, Seaphorium, and Signet Grinds. Have fun. The Dawnbreaker is there as well. I think people just really like that one because it goes hard and it's really cool. Even if, yes, high-end Mythic Plus players do kind of hate it for the bugs and the awkwardness of the last boss.
I can't stand that dungeon, bro. Mythic or no. Mythic, no, heroic, whatever. Like, follower dungeons are completely broken. You can't even run it.
I just kind of like the vibes, and honestly, yeah, it's totally the one that I would.
It could be cool. It could be cool.
Cool. Realistically, then, since any player can vote in the forums, this probably is a good selection of the most fun dungeons.
Arakara would be fine, but that's obviously what, because of Sackbrood, I think, right?
Do make sense, and I have to imagine Blizzard will keep that in mind when they're designing the next expansion's dungeons. But there is a curious global difference. So all of this broadly tracks for both NA and EU, but there's a fun little thing. Why do NA players love Dawnbreaker so much more than EU, who actually put Dawnbreaker below Floodgate and Priory? I don't know why. If you're an EU player, why do we hate it? And hey, if it's America,
because Dawnbreaker actually sucks. That dungeon actually sucks.
You know, we're gonna pump on some like Created Clearwater Revival, go shooting boys from a big, you know, helicarrier bomb thing. Because honestly, that's kind of sick. Season of Discovery, and hey, if you are a retail Andy like I am, actually do listen. This is real interesting. So over in the world of Classic, Phase 8 of Season of Discovery is out. People are working through the new Scarlet Enclave raid and all the stories attached to that. And interestingly, Blizzard dropped a video. It's called What's Next? And it's a series of quick pieces to camera from the Season of Discovery developers, but there's a major through line here. Everything that they say just sounds like they're talking about Classic Plus.
Oh, God, I hope so. I will go full send on Classic Plus. I've been wanting, like, I kind of want to play Season of Discovery, but my tunes are, like, on some random server.
Classic like it was at the time. Not just how the game released,
and that server's completely dead.
It. And while they didn't say it outright, the Karazhan Crypt's darkness mechanic where players needed a torch to see, well, that was a very early planned feature for World of Warcraft. It was a part of survival skills, which was something that Blizzard ended up just axing from the game. But it was cool to see it sort of...
It seems like, as far as I know anyway, everybody...
of that video, because, you see, we've talked about how Blizzard's communications say Phase 8 is the final chapter, the end of Season of Discovery.
Yeah.
And we've heard how they also don't plan to shut down the servers. But at the end of this video, they say this, and I'll quote them directly. Our team has some really amazing things planned, and we can't...
God, please bring us Classic Plus. I can't wait. I can't wait.
I don't know. Call it cope, but I think Season of Discovery is about to become a lot more than just a season. I don't think we'll have to wait that long to find out what that could actually mean.
But I want...
word in Classic, though it's not really Classic because...
But I want new servers. I mean, I don't mind the ruins, but I'd like the traditional classes. I'd like everything else about Season of Discovery, right? Just give us the traditional classes, right? Give us some additional content, right? The new raids, everything look fun. That would be awesome. And then add on top of that, right? a few more raids, and they don't even have to give us like additional power boosts, like at least from my perspective, right? I mean, maybe like a couple of points or whatever, right? Like add maybe like, you know, make it slightly more powerful. It doesn't even have to be that much. And give us, you know, I'd love the ability to transmog in SOD, but or Classic Plus, whatever you want to call it, but I kind of understand why they wouldn't do that. So if you give us like different colored set pieces, that would be so sick, right? Give us the ability to like grind out colored sets, right? Like, so once you get a piece of gear, like you get a piece of tier 2 or whatever, then after that you get the ability to like alter it, like with either gems would be cool, or like some kind of piece or something that drops off the bosses that is personal loot, so you're not rolling on it against other people, right? And just have it like do certain things. Like you could even do like resistance stuff, right? So if it's like frost resistance, right, it turns the pieces blue. If it's fire resistance, it turns it like red or black or whatever, right? And give us the ability to like color coordinate that stuff. That would be so sick.
Because it's Mists of Pandaria.
But either way, I'm super excited.
Beta signups have just went live. Remember, the Mists of Pandaria Classic release date is set to be before
I cannot believe
July
they're doing Mists of
29th.
Pandaria
That basically
Classic.
means beta testing is
And
going
people
to be
are
happening
actually
very
hyped
soon
about it
indeed.
too. I mean,
And
you
you've got
know,
2, maybe 3 months to get yourself a level 85. And hey, if you don't have the good old Presbyterian work ethic to get that done, don't worry. Blizzard will, of course, sell you a boost in a big epic pack or something like that. But okay, what do you want to do in WoW this week? Here's the thing. Over here, we've noticed that actually knowing what's going on in World of Warcraft each week has become a little bit of a travesty. Is it a Spark Week? Will there be a Catalyst charge? Will there be a raid buff? Is the event actually worth doing? What am I missing? Well, those are all answers that involve a whole bunch of Googling and things. So welcome to the newest segment of our show, which is basically, what the hell do I do this week? Let's start. Right now, it is the 4th full Spark week, and that means that by now you should be able to craft 4 bits of gear, or of course 2 bits of gear plus 1 2-handed weapon. Now, if you have been doing your tier 11 delves for gilded crests each week, or been working higher Mythic Plus, you should quite easily have 60 gilded crests. That's what you will need to craft an item level 675 weapon, or, you know, any bit of gear. It's a seriously high item level, so I'd recommend doing that.
Yeah,
Basically,
I need to do that for
items
sure.
you're ever going to have, unless you're a Mythic Raider or are happy to do Mythic Plus 10s and just wait on Vault luck basically forever. If not, remember, you can get a free enchanted rune crest from doing Galliwix in story mode, and you'll get another one of those from 20 Undermine Renown. Of course, if you've been doing like your weeklies and some world quests, you should at least be very, very close to there by now. Over in the world of the Catalyst, there is no new charge, unless, of course, you have got the bonus from Keystone Master or Curve. If you've got that, you'll have 4 charges. If you've not got that, you will have 3 charges. That's not quite enough to get from, say, 0 to 4 set, but...
Bro, I had 3 pieces of non-tier hero pieces drop. I am so upset, dude. It's just sitting there.
Pretty much almost there. This week, then, the Raid Renown cap hits 7. That means that after a few kills, you can get yourself another extra 3% damage and healing buff. Though you might want to watch out. Our raid leader Matt bullied us into not unlocking that thing, so we could at least say that we defeated Galliwix without it. We basically just lost it in phase 1, and we met the DPS checks that way fairly easily. It was a fun kill, and honestly for us, it ended a really, really fun tier. Now, the other weekly thing to do, of course, is the event, and it is a weaker one this week. It's Arena Week. If you win 10 skirmishes, you'll get a stack of Conquest and Honor. And this one...
Yeah, I gotta go work on my delves, because I haven't run any this week, so peace out.